Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Lazy Book Review. I'm Jacob. Good to see you. I most recently I read the book Laurus by Eugene Vodalazkin. I really enjoyed this book. Um, it reminds me of something like The Alchemist, but for Orthodox people. It takes place in medieval Russia, and it is delightful to see a story of pilgrimage and self-transformation, but for people of my culture, and a little bit more modern. And it takes its time a little bit more than The Alchemist. It's a longer book. It's very modern. It's very recent. It's very well written. The other person that you sometimes, I'm just checking the copyright date here. It is written in 2012. And the other person that sometimes people talk about when they talk about Laurus is Umberto Eco. And Laurus does have a bit of a historical kind of sensibility to it. In the original Russian, in the language it was written, it used in the parts of the book that take place in the past, they use old Russian dialects, antique Russian language. And so when they translated it into English, they would use a lot of Chaucer-like spellings and a more medieval English dialogue to sort of translate the feel of the original Russian. So you get this feeling of really being transported into the past. And the other thing that's cool about this book is it's a story. It's a story in the tradition of the Holy Fool. This is a class of saint that's especially large in the Russian tradition that I feel like doesn't really have a parallel in the West as much. We have monastic saints, we have bishops, we have holy monks, but in Russia especially, there's also this tradition of the Holy Fool, which is someone who is very in touch with the will of God to the point where they sort of become free of social conditioning, and they start just behaving oddly. But often they'll be miracle workers, or they'll be good counselors. There's like evidence that they're very in touch with the will of God. A lot of times they'll be homeless, foolish figures who might be wandering pilgrims. They might shout cryptic wisdom at passerby that later people understand was prophetic or good advice or that came from God. And so the book follows the story of an orphan who is raised by his grandfather to be a healer. And in medieval Russia, that involves a lot of herbs and vegetables and bloodletting and leeches and those kind of things. They didn't have pharmaceuticals back then. But he realizes that the herbs and healing implements aren't really what's doing the curing, but it's God. And he ends up going on a pilgrimage that'll lead him all over the world. I believe, I think he eventually, there's a part of it where he winds up in Jerusalem for a bit. And so he's traveling through medieval Russia, through this hostile countryside full of bandits, and he's traveling by river raft and horse and on foot, living in poverty, and he has his own personal sins to atone for, and he's sort of seeking for God in his own way. I found this book to be very inspiring after reading it. It went down really fast. I think it was like 2 days. I was expecting it would take me a month, but then I just couldn't put it down. But I would warn you that it's very inspiring, and it makes me want to go on a pilgrimage myself. After reading that book, I kind of started planning this pilgrimage in my head. I want to go to the monastery in Essex, founded by Father Sophroni, and journey through various holy sites on my way to Jerusalem. I think that would be pretty bomb. And the other book I read back to back with it that didn't help at all is The Way of Pilgrim, which is kind of more more classic. It's an older book. I believe it was copyrighted in English in the 70s. It's attributed to an anonymous Russian peasant. But whereas Laurus is written in like sort of I mean, the church is there, but it's more of like a secular, magical realist kind of world. They don't lay on explicit Christian teaching so heavy. The Way of the Pilgrim is definitely a Christian devotional book. It has lots of big quotes from the Philokalia, from the Bible. The pilgrim is a crippled man who is traveling, and his obsession is to learn how to pray constantly, which is a phrase mentioned, I believe, in Thessalonians. He wants to know what that means, how to do it, and he does it along the way. And you know, he's traveling in a very similar time period to Laurus. It is sort of a pre-modern Russia, and it was written in the 70s, which predates, I believe, The Alchemist and Laurus by quite a bit. So it's sort of an older version of this pilgrim genre. And so if you ever want a 1-2 punch that'll make you start planning out a pilgrimage, definitely Laurus, founded by The Way of a Pilgrim, and why not just throw The Alchemist on the end there. So welcome to Lazy Book Review. I hope to review a lot more books. I want to not be a passive consumer of media, but also do a little bit of creation. And I plan to write book reviews, and I never get around to it. So I'm just going to throw up some lazy book reviews and hope you find them useful. Just want to let you know, there is another channel that stole my name. There's another Chamomile TV out there, and they have more subscribers than me. They're in the 300s, and I'm in the 150s right now. And so I want to beat them. So if you found this video and you're not subscribed, please find the button down below, like and subscribe. Peace.